name of the subject is ground improvement techniques, and the name of the topic is soil stabilization. This is Unit 1, Lecture 5. So the objective of this topic is to understand reducing the volume of voids, reducing the porosity, to understand the basics of soil stabilization, filling the voids that cannot be eliminated, that is reducing the permeability, increasing the bonding between grains, and which is equal to increasing the mechanical strength. Let's move forward. So soil stabilization. This is nothing but basically stabilizing the soil to make it fit for carrying loads or increasing soil bearing capacity. So the improvement process under this situation, where when the influence zone is limited to less than 1 meter, that is for roads, is called as surface stabilization. Okay, so if the influence zone or the zone under pressure or load condition, if it is less than 1 meter, then it is usually like the modification for that certain area is usually termed as surface stabilization, because only the surface area needs to be stabilized. Area zone below 1 meter need not be modified. It's only up to the surface level it can be done. It should be done, because if we can go further, but then it is just increasing the cost of stabilization. The ultimate cost of construction will increase. Geotechnical process of improving the engineering properties of the soil, that is density, shear strength, C and O factors are improved, while compressibility, settlement and permeability reduced, and making it more stable and durable is called ground improvement. See, as we are well aware that a structure is a heavy mass, it can have hundreds and millions of tons load below, exerting below its surface. So the soil way under depth inside the earth needs to be properly stabilized, so that uh, the stabilization should be such that the entire load can be distributed to a vast area, and the loading bulb that is created is higher, so that the weight can be mutually distributed in a very well way. Okay, so surface stabilization deals with only the surface, like almost 1 meter, maybe 1.5 meter as well in case of heavy highways. Otherwise, we only deal with 1 meter zone. And for ground improvement, we go for higher depth, where higher depth of compressibility and settlement has to be prevented. So, depth of the zone for ground improvement will be much, much deeper. So, stabilizing a soil implies the modification of the properties of a soil water air system in order to obtain lasting properties which are compatible with particle application. So, by the mentioning of soil, water, and air system, what does we refer to? We refer to the three-phase system that we previously discussed, where a soil is a three-phase system. It consists of soil particles, which are solids, but are matter, are solid, which are in solid state. And the soil particles in between them have voids, which can be either in a very dry state be filled with air. In a partially or saturated form, it can be filled with water. With partial saturation, the voids are filled with both air and water. Okay, so uh, usually when you are stabilizing a soil, we consider three-phase system of the soil. And after only considering the three-phase system, only then you will obtain long-lasting properties for the soil. And they can be compatible with particular application, because each and every soil conditions, each and every stabilization process have their end goal, and they have their own properties which can be applicable for certain situations. Parameters involved are properties of the soil to be stabilized, planned improvements, project economics, construction techniques, maintenance of the project. So, usually, while undertaking stabilization process, we consider all the major scenarios which needs to be uh, made sure that the end application can be fulfilled. And usually, it's a thumb rule to consider the property of soil which is available in that soil. If for a particular reason that soil is problematic and cannot be used for construction, that soil particularly has to be replaced, rather than taking a soil sample, stabilizing it, and then again not getting the appropriate result will be a waste of money and time. So, understanding the property of soil, can this be stabilized? Can this give you the perfect result, or can this have a long lasting uh, load carrying capacity, is quite important to be considered. Planned improvements. So, for each and every construction process, we should make sure that the soil conditions or the soil properties should correlate with the improvement techniques that we're using. Again, it should also be such that it can help in your final application or the final purpose of stabilization. Just in case you're going for a very excessive, expensive solution for stabilization for a particular soil, and again the soil does not fit, or it becomes extremely expensive to finish the construction process, it is unnecessarily increasing the economic value of this construction, then it is totally waste of money. So rather we have to plan which is the most appropriate money wise, equipment wise, availability of human resource, uh, availability of the technology that we're using, then again the results which can be produced out of it, the usability of that soil after stabilization. So all these things have to be considered. We come to the main point, which is project economics. So we have to make sure that, like with planning the techniques for stabilization, it is quite crucial that the technique that we're using, it can end up in two ways. One is that you are using technology to stabilize a particular soil, but the technology or the method that you're using is not efficient. Hence, you will not get the required result, and again, you have to consider any other techniques or stabilization technologies. So again, you are wasting your time and money for doing modifications, because prior to, like while planning the improvement method, you did not do your work. Or if you are considering a process or a method or a technology to stabilize soil, which is way, way, way expensive and it is not required. Only a minor, less expensive method can, do a better job, or at least give the required result. If that can be achieved, again the project economics can be reduced. Unnecessary wastage of money or time will not be required. Then construction technique. Again, construction technique is all related to the process. It helps you understand that if for a certain type of soil or land or the topography, there are certain methods which are opted for construction. So those things can be studied and understood. Then the maintenance of projects. So again, because we have undertaken stabilization, it should be such that it requires very less maintenance, because after construction, but obviously the construction, like the soil beneath the construction, can have minimum to negligible maintenance. So that has to be taken good care of. Like it should not be like it should have a time period of 5-10 years, and again you're supposed to dig out the whole soil and then replace the soil or stabilize the soil, which is practically uh, impossible. So usually zero to minimum maintenance is planned, or the technique is opted, so that there is no unnecessary extra maintenance work other than the regular ones. So the objective is to reducing the volume of voids, which is reducing the porosity. Again, when voids are more, porosity is more. So reducing the voids, but obvious packing the soil particles all together in one solid lesser volume will obviously reduce the porosity. Filling the voids that cannot be eliminated. So how can you do that? Uh, Usually for like we can fill the voids with smaller particles of soil, which can take up the space of the space in between the other soil particles. So we can try for mixing different soil types, or mixing some binding agents such as lime, gypsum, or cement into the soil, so that the voids get filled up, and hence the permeability, because the void is less, the seepage or the permeability obviously reduces, increasing the bonding between the grains and increasing the mechanical strength. Again, the bonding increases with, we know that when there is a great bond and great cohesiveness between two soil particles, the mechanical strength increases, because it is quite tough to rupture their bonding, or uh, like because we are adding some binding agents such as cement and lime and gypsum. So these materials, they have a tendency to adhere to soil particles all together and form a bond, and these bonds, when it increases in the volume or the mass, it obviously becomes a very solid structure, gives great mechanical strength, and it can resist a lot of force which is exerted on it. Procedures: mechanical, by compacting to reduce the porosity and increase the compressibility. Physical, by acting on its texture, that is the controlled mixture of the grain, different grain fractions. Chemical, by adding other materials or chemicals to modify its property. So we will discuss each of these in. So surface stabilization, it consists of mechanical stabilization, chemical stabilization, physical stabilization, and psychochemical stabilization. We'll discuss each and every one in detail. So with mechanical stabilization, in this technique, mechanical energy is used, such as rollers, plate compactors, and tempers, etc. By choice or earth, by choice or by nature of soil, to improve the soil properties by compaction. So usually with mechanical energy, it means we are using some sort of mechanical devices to exert pressure or to do impact loading or to crush the surface and make it smoother, and then push these soil particles all together in a very under high pressure. So again, anything which uses mechanical equipments or mechanical devices can be termed as mechanical stabilization. And usually for this purpose we use rollers, plate compactors, tempers. We also use other forms of impact loading devices like dynamic loading devices, which we will discuss, preferably for construction of embankments for roads, railways, or etc. So usually these are done because it's a surface stabilization. So these processes are done for embankments of roads and railways, and this process of stabilization is more than enough for certain type of soil and where the road construction of road and railways are supposed to take place. So these methods are quite more sufficient to achieve the required amount of stabilization. Mechanical stability depends upon the degree of compaction. Normally, the compaction is done at optimum water content. So we know this about the optimum water content because we have previously discussed about it. So the water content which is required for the soil to provide appropriate or optimum amount of workability, again not causing bleeding or any honeycomb structure or creating unnecessary segregation of soil particles and cement paste, but then the optimum point, optimum water content is the level where the soil has enough mobility, enough workability, and again it can be tempered into place. So again, we know that if we are going for a higher depth compaction, we usually do it in layers where each and every layer is filled with soil with optimum water content and compacted. And it is led to, like the water is led to either seep down or get evaporated. Um Uses simplest method of soil stabilization. So we use the simplest method because going for the toughest method will obviously result in using a lot expensive technologies or um, skilled labor, which can be expensive again. Like we usually use skilled labor, but then for extreme higher technologies, you need specially trained skilled labor, which again becomes comparably very expensive. To improve the subgrades of low bearing capacity. So uh, we have to make sure that the subgrades should be improved in such a way that the low bearing capacity can be improved, and excessively used for construction of bases, sub bases, and surfacing of roads. So excuse me. So we have to make sure that how excessive is the usage or the load application on the road, because that can be like studied so that the subgrades, modification of subgrades to bases and sub bases and surfacing of the road can be accordingly planned. Mechanical stabilization, factors affecting the mechanical stabilization. The mechanical stabilization of the mixed soil depends upon the following factors. So these are the important factors where we consider mechanical stabilization. So the first one is mechanical strength of the aggregate. Again, we previously discussed that it is quite important to use aggregates of higher strength because they are the ones that gives extra compressive strength to the concrete. So it is very important to use higher grade of aggregates like if it is a thumb rule that if the aggregate is exerted with impact loading and the aggregate breaks into two pieces or two or three pieces, it is considered of a higher strength. And if it shatters down to tiny little particles or like millions of pieces, then it is considered as aggregate of very less strength. So it is quite necessary to have aggregates of high strength so that it can take the mechanical strength, because these are the ones who provide sturdy or compressive strength to the whole structure. So using high grade aggregates is quite important. The mixed soil is stable if the aggregates used have high strength. However, if the mixture is probably designed and compacted, even the aggregates of relatively low strength can provide good mechanical stability. It is said even if you're using low strength aggregate, it can provide, and if it is compacted very well, it can provide you good mechanical stability. But rather than this, like if there are scenarios where the availability of moderate strength aggregate is only available, then we can go for compaction and getting a relatively good mechanical stability. But rather we would choose to have high strength aggregates, so that with compaction the result output of that uh, like modification for soil will be higher and can be much stable and durable, because again there will be no periodic damage to the structure because of improper strength of aggregates, and they give much better strength. Again, compaction, if they are all tightly packed to each other and there is a bonding between them, some bonding agent or binding agent has been used. Again, comparatively good mechanical stability can be provided, but we'd rather use good strength aggregates. Mineral composition. Again, mineral composition is quite necessary because mineral composition can result into uh, damages due to the environment. Maybe if the mineral composition is of certain type where it bulges or shrinks during presence of moisture, or there may be some sort of build up which can create unnecessary shear pressure inside the soil and causing a crack, and then abruptments on the surface. So considering the mineral composition is quite essential, and the mechanical stability for the mixed soil depends upon the composition of the minerals. So it is quite necessary. It may also happen that the soil has certain chemicals which will react with the binding agent, the minerals in binding agent, and cause unnecessary reactions and chemical processes which are unnecessary and does not give you the correct result. So, it is quite essential to understand the mineral composition of the soil and the mineral composition of the binding agent, because both of them have minerals and they are bound to react with each other. So, to get the necessary positive output, we need to make sure that we understand mineral composition very well. Okay. Gradation. Gradation of the mixed soil should be such that the voids of the coarser particle are filled with finer particles to obtain high density. Yes, this is usually done in concrete where um, size of 20 mm aggregates are mixed with 10 mm aggregates. This is done so that the soil particles, like if you understand the larger, coarser size particles, when they are packed together, they will have some void spaces, and it is for compaction or for stabilization. It is extremely necessary to reduce the void. So it can easily be done by using finer particles with same property, and those finer particles, when mixed with the coarser particles, they take up the void spaces in between them. And if they take up the void spaces, naturally the voids will reduce. When the voids will reduce, you can achieve higher density. Plasticity characteristics. For mud roads surfacing, highly plastic roads are used as binders. They possess greater cohesion, moisture retention capacity, and provide seal against downward movement of surface water. Okay. For base course, the soil should be of low plasticity to avoid excessive accumulation of water and resulting in loss of strength. The soil available at site may seldom meet both the requirement. It is necessary to mix soil from different sources to obtain desired mix. Again, for mud roads, as we are sure that the mud roads, usually we consider clay and silty soils because they are known to have high plasticity, and during rainy seasons they do not percolate the water inside the surface. They retain the water on the surface. They do not let the water to easily percolate there through them. So it resists, or it provides a seal against downward movement of soil, and which is quite necessary for mud roads. But when we are talking about base course, or the soils which have rigid pavements. So for those soils, we naturally tend to have very low plasticity, which does not mean we use plastic. We use certain soils which can easily percolate the soil. Like the water can easily percolate the soil during rainy seasons or monsoons, and there is no accumulation of water on the top. And because with accumulation of water on the top, it can cause uplifting of the whole base course. So that is what we're supposed to make sure that and should be achieved. And we understand that for certain areas we are supposed to achieve both these properties. So what we can do is to mix different type of soils so that we can ultimately achieve the desired property for a certain area. So if there is an area with certain type of soil, what can be done is the soil, some other soil from different area with different certain properties can be transported and mixed with the construction site soil, and desired results can be obtained. With physical stabilization, in this technique, more than two or three soils are blended to improve the physical properties of weak soil. Quite often, some additives may also be added for the purpose. So, physical stabilization, we can see we are mixing cement stabilization, lime stabilization, bitumen stabilization, chemical stabilization, and resin stabilization. With cement stabilization, the most commonly used for road construction, these are most commonly used for road construction, heavy clays are difficult to pulverize and are not suitable. Well graded sand and gravel mixtures with up to 10% fine bending material, binder material, passing 200 sieve, and quantity of cement to be determined on trial basis in lab. Minimum strength required is 3.5 Newton per mm square. That is 7 days cube strength. So within 7 days, it should have 3.5 Newton per mm square minimum strength. So a combination of that is designed. Compaction to be completed within 2 hours after laying the mixing with water. So with cement stabilization, we understand we have initial setting time and final setting time. So there is an importance to time after mixing of moisture, because with the presence of moisture, the minerals in the cement tends to undergo chemical reactions wherein they start forming bonds, and they create uh, bonding for soil particles or aggregate particles. So it is, as we know, that cement is the highly consumed material in the world. Third, I guess, third. And heavy clays, like clay particles cannot be pulverized, wherein but cement can be pulverized, and well graded sand with gravels or aggregates are designed in such a way inside the lab so that 3.5 Newton per mm square strength can be achieved. So there are two methods. Central plant method, where faster construction, expansive, dry mix, then wet, thoroughly spread and compaction. So central plant is plant um, where like it helps in faster construction. It is quite expensive because we have a lot of a set of machinery which is located at a certain area where the mix is like the soil particles and the binding materials are bought, stored, they are mixed well, and then after the mixture is created, that dry mix is then transported. It is wet thoroughly, it is properly homogeneously mixed for thoroughly, and a homogeneous paste is created, or a semi plastic consistency is created, and then it is again transported to the construction site, um, and then placed and compacted. So again, that becomes a bit expensive. If it is a very large scale project, so the central plant needs to be relocated after certain distance. Mix in place method, similar to agriculture rotatory cultivators. Firstly, soil is pulverized, then dry cement is spread all over, then water is sprinkled in layers, again remixed and shaped to camber and compacted using rollers. So this is a process where the soil is not transported to any other location. It is like the soil is totally pulverized at the same site of construction. It is mixed with cement in different layers and spread with water, and it is thoroughly mixed in the same site. It does not go under any other central plant. It is directly used by the like man force that we have, or skilled labor that we have. So the people are employed, or some certain small devices or equipments are used to pulverize the soil, where but again, like with central method, plant method, thorough mixing can be achieved. Again, with the place in mix in place method, we cannot achieve thorough mixing, but approximate mixing can be achieved, and water is again sprinkled in the layer. So in this process, there is a problem where the moisture content cannot be properly monitored, and there may be excessive of water, or maybe if there is a dry temperature, the loss of water can take place, which cannot be properly modified, like cannot be monitored. So with cement stabilization, normal soil cement, it consists of 5 to 14% of cement by volume. Cement is sufficient to produce a hard and durable material, sufficient water to be used for hydration required and workability. It is weather resistant and strong, and used for stabilizing sandy and low plasticity soil. So to normal soils, we can go for cement. Plastic soil cements, it consists of 5 to 14% of cement as common. It has more water to have wet consistency similar to that of plastering mortar at the time of placement. So with plastic soil, you need to have the wet consistency, like have high workability or fluidity, used for waterproofing linings of canal and reservoirs. So these can be used for lining, like waterproofing it, because we know that plastic soils have a tendency to provide very less permeability, which can be done or achieved using plastic soil cements. Used for waterproofing linings of canals and reservoirs. Used for protection of steep slopes against water erosion. So this is the picture where you can see how the soil gets treated. This is the treated material, which is on the extreme left, where you can see um, great porosity. And untreated material is gradually consolidated. It has very less amount of voids. You can see the milling and mixing of drums. It agitates the whole material and like increases the void and the volume of the previously reduced or compacted soil, untreated soil. So we can see this. This is how soil stabilization with using cement is done. This is how it looks. So we can see that with central, like the whole mixture is transported from central plant mix, and it is directly uh, applied to the surface, or the cement is added to the soil using a transportation method where vast areas can be um, properly added with cement. So this is the structure that we see where a partition of the soil is removed, is cut off, and we can see the voids need to be removed. So this is the whole process. We can see that. Let us talk about lime stabilization. There are basically five types of lime: high calcium, quick lime, hydrated high calcium lime, which is dolomite lime, normal hydrated dolomite lime, and pressure hydrated dolomite lime. So the quick lime is more effective than the hydrated lime, but the latter is more safe and convenient to handle. Generally, hydrated lime is used and is known as slaked lime. So there are particular types of lime wherein usually we consider hydrated lime or slaked lime. So higher the magnesium content in the lime, less is the affinity for water, and the less is the heat generated during mixing. So again, we prefer soils with less magnesium because it gives you a very less affinity to water, and less heat will be generated during mixing, because as we know that cement has the property of while reaction they have a tendency to produce high heat of hydration. The amount of lime required varies from 2 to 10% of the soil. Lime stabilization is done by adding lime to soil. It is useful for stabilization of clayey soils. When lime reacts with soil, there is exchange of cation in the absorbed water layer, and decrease in plasticity of the soil occurs, and the resulting material is more friable than the original clay and is therefore more suitable as subgrade. There are different types of lime. Lime is produced by burning of limestones in kiln. The quality of lime obtained depends upon the parent material and the process of production. So these are rough guide, need not be, it's there for your basic understanding. So for lime stabilization, let us go for construction method used in lime stabilization are similar to those used in cement stabilization. However, the following points should be carefully noted. The reaction in the case of lime is slow. There is no maximum time limit between the addition of lime to the soil and completion of the compaction. So, as in cement, we have a foundation wherein we have to consider initial and final setting time, but with lime, we need not do that. Uh, Lime may be added in the form of slurry instead of dried powder. So, as cement needs to be added in dry state because, like with the application of moisture on along with cement, the bonding starts taking place. But lime, there is no time limitation. You can marry around and use either the powdered form or the slurry form, which is more convenient to you. But with cement, we cannot be doing that. The soil particles and the cement has to be mixed in dry form. Uh, a rest period of 1 to 4 days is generally required for spreading lime over a heavy clay before final mixing is done. So we can, and like there is one point with the ease of using the slurry or dry form, but the other negative cons of using slime is that it the bonding process may be slower than the cement. uh, Soil lime is compacted to the required maximum dry density. After completion, after compaction, the surface is kept moist for 7 days and then covered with suitable covering coat. So with cement, we need not make sure, like, we need to make sure that the curing takes place perfectly well. But with lime, like for proper setting of the lime, we should provide extreme or maximum moisture to the soil. Chemical and physical changes to the lime. Lime reacts with wet soil and alters the nature of the absorbed layer as calcium ion replaces the sodium or hydrogen ion. The double layer is expressed due to increase in cation concentration, but sometimes expand due to high pH value of lime. Lime reacts chemically with silica and alumina in the soil and forms natural cement composed of calcium aluminosilicate. See again, the Bogies element which is produced in cement can be generated naturally because these chemicals are quite similar. And the minerals or the chemicals, they react very well. So we have to consider the following scenarios and see. The lime stabilization, liquid limit decreases, plastic limit increases, and plasticity index increases. Soil becomes more friable and workable. That means the ultimate consistency, or what do you say? The ultimate the workability or the consistency is such that it can be easily monitored or monitored. It can be easily worked, it can be easily placed at a scenario, and the soil becomes more friable and workable. Again, the consistency is increased, nothing but that. Uh, the plastic strength of the soil is improved and unconfined compressive strength is increased up to 60%. We can see that the compressive strength can be majorly increased and the modulus of elasticity of the soil can also be increased. Again, workability and friability is increased. Lime causes decrease in tendency of attraction of water. So, unnecessary amount of water will not be absorbed, and it will prevent the expansion and compression due to excessive moisture because lime repels water. Soil resistant to water absorption, capillary rise and volume change on wetting or drying is increased. Lime stabilized base as sub-bases form a water resistant barrier which stops penetration of rainwater. Optimum water content is increased and maximum dry unit weight is decreased. In swampy areas where water content is above the optimum, it helps in drying of the soil. We know that the fly ash is a pozzolanic material. It reacts with lime and is therefore almost used always in a combination of lime in soil and that have little to no plastic fines. It has often been found desirable to use small amounts of Portland cement with lime and fly ash, again to add strength. We know that it acts similarly in cement, concrete paste as well. This combination of lime, cement, fly ash has been used successfully. This is an example where, again, fly ash is a waste material and you mixing fly ash results into a higher um strength and and it is eco-friendly, extremely eco-friendly. Um, Base stabilization, asphalt and bitumen material both are used for waterproofing and for strength gain. Generally, soil suitable for asphalt stabilization are the silty, sandy, and granular material since it is desired to be thoroughly coated all soil types, soil particles. So these are some of the pictures we can see where the cement is prepared, like the soil is prepared and the lime is thoroughly poured into the soil particles where it will be thoroughly mixed. Before lime, it is marshy, it is unsteady, whereas after mixing of lime, we can see that the granular can retain its strength. It can retain its less flowable. It's less viscous. It holds its position. So this is one of the high-tech equipments which can be used for mixing of the lime and soil binding materials. So we can see the depth to which the mixing can take place. These are the equipments. We can see the process where the water has been mixed and the mixing process takes place. It is usually done in a layer by layer process. Okay. What is the first principle of mechanical soil stabilization? Proportioning, compaction, consolidation, and shear. So the first is A, and the explanation is the first principle of mechanical stabilized soil is proportioning and then compaction. So proportion has to be taken care of. Uh, the non-desirable property of soil is shear, swelling, incompressibility, and stability. So the most important, the non-desirable property is B, which is swelling. Swelling is not such a desirable property in soil because change of volume can cause great loss of soil. So even if the bond strength can again be affected due to it. The maximum dry density of the soil can be achieved by compaction, consolidation, removal of voids, and removal of rocks. So, the best method to achieve maximum dry density is by compaction of soil, as it is the easy and the best fast method. The compaction of granular material is very easy, difficult, and very difficult. The answer is D. It is very difficult. The compaction of granular material is very difficult task as it needs a lot of efforts because it has a tendency to move from high pressure zone to a low pressure zone. If the grains in the aggregate are loose contact and they melt, float, freeze, and seize, the answer is float. If the granular material is separated and the grains in the soil mostly float in a cold region, they freeze. The N in the gradation formula is called gradation value, gradation index, gradation factor, gradation distribution. The answer is gradation index. And the N in the gradation formula is called as gradation index of the soil, which is used to denote the property of particular soil. The value of maximum gradation index lies between 0.5, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1. And the answer is A. The maximum gradation of index is 0.5 and it depends on the coarseness of aggregate. For less coarse aggregate, it may be 0.1 to 0.2. The mechanical stabilized soil does not depend on gradation, salts, compaction, and consolidation. The answer is D because consolidation is a later on process which takes place with time. The mechanical stabilization of soil does not depend on consolidation. It is a long-term process. The proportioning method not in use is Rutherford triangular lab test and CBR method. The answer is CBR method because CBR method is a method of designing the flexible pavement and the remaining are proportioning methods. So we can understand that the above three methods are for proportioning process and the CBR method is for designing of flexible pavement. The percentage of chemical added in soil by weight is 1, 1.5, 0.5 and 0.2. The answer is C, which is 0.5. The usual volume of chemical added in the soil is 0.5% of the weight of the soil. If it is added more, then the soil may lose its strength. These are some of the reference books. Thank you.